Let's invite our filmmakers who are in attendance to come up for a Q&A.
Daryl, do you want to come up?
Okay, let's give a round of applause to our filmmakers. All right, so let me just first ask each of you if you could introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Ted Schaefer, director and co-writer.
Daryl Freimark, producer.
Okay. All right, congratulations. Excellent film. So let's begin by talking about the inspiration for the film. Where did the concept come from, the relationship between these two women? I mean, was this a story that you had heard of, or is it just a completely original, unique concept?
It's an original concept. My writing partner, Patrick, who's not here, and I have been working together for a while, and it's loosely based off of, I was very interested in the idea of scams, and I had gotten some letter from some scam company, and I started to follow it to kind of see how far it would go. They end up sending you this like check, which apparently some banks will cash, and then 3 weeks later you've lost all your money. So that was sort of, there was a seed about that, and there were other kind of themes we were thinking about. So the idea of identity and birth kind of were natural companions. So that was sort of the genesis of it.
Interesting. And Daryl, how did you become involved? How did you and Ted connect on this project? I mean, I know you've produced numerous films in the past. How did you guys come together?
Sure. So Ted was the assistant director on a number of films that I'd produced, and Ted had been writing scripts all along, and I'd been reading them. And when this one came to me, believe it or not, I was like, "This is the least strange script Ted has written yet." But no, I really I identified with the idea of losing or trying to figure out your identity. I mean, I think we all do, and I wanted to, see that turned into a movie.
Does anybody have any questions for either Ted or Daryl? Any questions? Yes.
There's a lot of play with like light and reflections and angle of light. Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah, that was sort of that was an early discussion with me and the cinematographer, because I think we were looking for clues early on, because the film sort of shifts worlds, but to clue the audience into the sort of unsettled. It shouldn't feel quite real. Everything should feel like from the beginning you're not quite sure what world you're existing in until it starts to kind of reveal itself. And that was one of the ways we could do that visually.
Any other questions? Yes. Any previous films, that maybe inspired some of it?
Rebel Without a Cause. That's a reference in there. But that's tough. I don't know. I don't think there's anything, so much of it that's subconsciously done. There's not anything specific. I don't think that we were trying to specifically emulate, but there's, sure. I think just my general proclivities in film kind of definitely subvert.
David Lynch, of course.
Sure.
Any other questions? Let's go and start in the back. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you talk about the choice of format and why you decided to present it in that way and shoot on film and all that. How'd that look?
Yeah, I mean, the shooting on film was always in the discussion, and that's partly because I think especially movies like this that exist in a separate space, like it gives it a tactile feeling that I thought was really important. And then to shoot 4:3 that was a decision that some of it was practical. It made more sense because it narrows your frame, and it also made sense for the characters. It kind of creates this box that they're living in, but also it allows you to expand height instead of width, which I think for a lot of the interiors was really useful, and just kind of allowed us to play with the style that we were trying to kind of play with, where you were feeling like you were in a very specific sort of old movie almost.
Was that 16 millimeter?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. Was that a challenge? Because nowadays, I imagine it must be difficult to find
It wasn't cheap.
editors and places that deal, because it's so not.
Well, I think one of the advantages of shooting on film is that, especially the way Ted did this, is they're longer takes, and it feels a little bit more like you're in a play, and also you don't have infinite amount of chances to get something wrong. So it's a challenge on the actors to focus, which our actors did a great job of, and some who are here. So I think I've shot on film a few times, and I always love that kind of a challenge.
Yeah, I think it does create a fun atmosphere where you everyone sort of knows once you're rolling it takes it more seriously. But it wasn't. I mean, it was a little more expensive, but it wasn't that much more challenging because Kodak had just opened up their lab, so they were also willing to give us a deal. Right. And there's been a little bit of a resurgence, so now there's a few labs that will do processing and scanning, and you can only buy it from Kodak. They're the only ones making it, but otherwise, it's a little more available. And the cameras are very cheap.
Right. And then in post, is that done in the more, I guess, traditional sense that you transfer it and then you?
Yeah.
It's so great to see a shot on film. It's so rare nowadays. I mean, I don't know about in the big, Hollywood studios, but amongst independent films, you don't really see many shot on film nearly as much.
Yeah, we were hoping it would help kind of.
And every day after shooting, one of us would drive, the reels back to the Kodak. We took turns doing that, but it was like, there was the day of shooting we couldn't, drive into a tree or anything.
That's maybe actually the most challenging thing, having to drive it all the way to Queens every day.
So it was a question of.
It's kind of a trivial thing, but the issue over is so basic.
That's where do we all go? I don't know. It's a good question.
Any other? Yes, go ahead.
Can you talk about casting a little bit? I feel like you're asking
we had a great casting director who's here, who is also a friend and just did a fantastic job. I think pretty early on we were like, we just need to find people that understand the kind of movie we're making because it's fairly specific. And once we found Annie, really, it kind of helped kind of put all the pieces together, how that build that family, because there was a literal family. And I mean, it was just lucky. People wanted to try and make this weird little movie.
There was a question on this side. Yes.
How long were you writing?
I think about a year. It took about a year from start to not the whole writing. I think we wrote the first draft fairly quickly, and then we just kept working. And we kept working on it through production. There's we can be long-winded, both Patrick and I. So there was a lot of cutting things down, which even in the editing, it was like, oh yeah, you can lose a lot of this. But my writing partner is a poet, so he is verbose sometimes. As am I.
You have a question up front. Go ahead. How long did it take to shoot?
It was 20 days, so all up in Westchester and around the city. Some in the city.
Nice. Okay. I think we have time for one more question. Yeah.
All right, so working with actors on a film like this compared to, say, a more traditional drama, how is that relationship and that sort of motivation?
Yeah, that's good. It's tough. I feel like it's so much of it is intuitive, and it was like, we just talked a lot, I think. Like, we just, beforehand, when we had some rehearsals, we had time to kind of, like, feel out the sort of tone of it, and then it kind of felt like once everybody figured it out, we just kind of went with it, and it was just kind of fine-tuning. But, yeah, it wasn't as, it's harder to conceptualize sometimes, I think, but I feel like you don't want, especially once we're on set, we tried not to talk too much about like the headiness of it, because that I think can get in the way. And everybody was very good, so they were very game, so they just kind of clicked into it pretty easily.
So, what is the plan at this point? Do you have distribution? Or are you still doing the festival circuit? Where do you kind of see the film going at this point?
Still doing the circuit. I have a couple festivals that are about to announce, and then talking to distributors now. So hopefully we'll have something in the next few months or so.
Great. And I'm just curious, like, what would you say is the sort of the main lesson you want people to walk away with after having seen the film?
I don't know if there's a lesson. I think
Or a
we
theme
were
or
just
something.
I think we were trying to play with a couple of different ideas and themes and feelings, and I think anything is positive. I don't, as long as you come away with something, I feel like that's all we can ask for.
Right. Daryl, do you have any thoughts on sort of what you think would be the main kind of theme? Or
I mean, I like the idea that I agree with Ted. Like, people should walk away with what they take from the film, and I think that's most important. For me personally, I always like the idea that you kind of look within yourself and figure out your own identity, and don't always rely on the people around you to make you who you are. So I really appreciate Diana's journey in that regard.
all right. Well, I want to thank you, Ted Schaefer, Daryl Freimark, giving birth to a butterfly, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.